The June 19th, 2023 City of Vandalia Council meeting is now called to order. We'll start with a moment of reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Council, you've had an opportunity to review the study session minutes of May 1st, the Council meeting minutes of May 1st, the Council study session minutes of May 15th, the Council meeting minutes of May 15th, and the Council retreat minutes from May 16th. Are there any comments or corrections? Being none, they stand approved. And that brings us to communications, petitions, and awards, and we have the introduction and oath of office. Am I deferring to Mr. Wendt here?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. I would like to introduce to you firefighter, paramedic, inspector Chris Moehl, who is here with us today. Please stand up, sir. Mr. Moehl is a resident of the city of Vandalia. He's accompanied here by his 4 wonderful children and his wife, Taylor. Mr. Moehl has been a part-time firefighter with us since August 2022. He was in Butler Township since May 2020, and he's also served in a part-time capacity in Clayton, Brookville, and Englewood. I was really happy to be able to bring him on after a really competitive process that yielded some really great candidates that we had. I'll point out that he is one of the firefighters that's backfilling after the promotion of the 3 internal candidates to the position of fire lieutenant. And so without further ado, I'll go ahead and swear him in.
Okay.
Really, in my mind, I was going to tell you that we've got this backdrop. We've got another one that's half this size and another one that's half this size and some tablecloths. These were donated by Minuteman Press to us at a value of almost $3,000. Communications manager Hopkins negotiated that for us. And so even though this violates fire code, we wanted to put it up to show everyone. And we're going to go ahead and swear them in. But you can just, if there's a fire, 1, I think you're really, really safe. But 2, there's an exit right behind this.
I, Christopher Moehl, solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution and will obey the laws of the United States and of the state of Ohio, that I will in all respects observe the provisions of the Charter and ordinances of the city of Vandalia, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of firefighter, paramedic, inspector. Firefighter, paramedic, inspector within the Division of Fire. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. All right, this time I'd like to ask Mr. Tuttle and his committee to come to the podium. We have a proclamation. Thanks for coming. We at the City of Vandalia are proclaiming this week as Pollinator Week here in Vandalia, which is something we've done here over the last few years. So I just want to take this time to thank Mr. Tuttle and your committee for everything you've done to help make us a bee city. I know we were the first bee city in the state of Ohio, and I know you put a lot of effort into this. And I guess what I'd like to also do is, when you're saying that to you, is just, kind of get a couple of words from you on what we can do as residents to help with the pollination and what we can do as a city. Go ahead.
All right, I really appreciate what the city has done as far as the pollination efforts to plant things which are pollinator friendly. And it's a really neat sign with the new banners that are up on the street to promote pollinator. But, people say, well, we've talked before about what can I do as an individual? Well, what you can do is just get a seed packet. I'll have them available at Summerfest if you want to just do that, and they're for pollinator friendly plants. And each person doing their part can then provide what's a major problem for bees right now, and that's lack of forage. So they need more food, and so that's something that you can do. But again, we appreciate all the plannings and things the city has done to help promote that, to make us a good bee city.
At our volunteer presentation we did here, the awards banquet we did here a couple of months ago, we gave away the wildflower
Right.
pollinators. So I planted those, and they're about that high right now. But
They're coming along, good.
all right.
All
Okay.
right.
Well, thanks again for everything you guys have done.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a lot of really good local government stuff, but Moehl family, if you don't wish to stay all evening, now's a great time to leave before we do our National Road Traffic Count presentation.
So if you ever want to clear a room, let's talk about traffic counts. All right, our headlining presentation tonight is the National Road Traffic Counts. Mr. Cron,
Good evening.
welcome.
They all left before this riveting presentation. So what we're going to talk about tonight is, can you hear me there? Traffic counts that we're doing to try to detect what kind of patterns or whatever we're seeing with the semi-traffic through town, or specifically on National Road. So what we've done is, so far we've performed 2 separate counts, one back at the end of November, beginning of December, and then again in May of this year. So what we're doing, going to the next one. So we're trying to quantify all vehicular and articulated truck traffic volumes throughout the city, or that come through the city on National Road. We're doing periodic checks to see how they might be changing, and try to detect any patterns that there are of the trucks.
Hey, Rob, one question on your first chart. November, December 22 compared to May 23.
Yes.
Same number of days in the comparison?
Yes, and
Okay.
we've broke it down into hourly totals and daily
Okay,
totals, so
gotcha.
we're comparing apples to apples through this. So just before we get into some of the counts, these are some of the things that we've been working on or are going to be working on to try to help mitigate some of the issues with the commercial trucks. The one is, and we've talked about this before, the northeast Dayton International Airport Logistics Access Project, which is the improvements to Lightner Road, Dixie Drive, and Northwoods that we're partnering with Montgomery County Engineers Office. We did receive $1.8 million in ODOT Transportation Review Advisory Council funding for the engineering and design of this. We've also received another $1.33 million in federal community project funding to help with some of the right-of-way acquisition and utility relocation. And we're going to be applying, or the county will actually on our behalf, as partnering with them for track funding, which is the ODOT money for the construction of the project once we get to that point. Some other things we've done is, well, it's been bid out now, and construction will start later this year. Is another traffic signal at the northbound ramps on Northwoods and I-75 there to help people get on and off the highway there. And then what we're talking about tonight is some of the video traffic counts that we're performing. Some other things that we've done, we've increased the speed limit on Airport Access Road up to 65 miles an hour, helping to make that not seem like a speed trap or trucks want to use that to hit those speeds out there. And also that helps change like the algorithms in some of the GPS equipment when they're measuring the traffic out there. And so also along with that, we did here a couple years ago, we reduced the speed limit in our downtown corridor from Dixie to Ranch View to 25 mile an hour. And then when we put the median out west, we extended the 35 mile an hour zone out to Peters Pike. So we're hoping that all of those things help in some of those algorithms and things that the GPS units use. Some other things, some no parking signage we've put on National Road all the way out west to keep the semis from parking along the new roadway that was built out there. We put the no parking signs on the ramps for the Airport Access Road, and then we've worked with ODOT to get all the no parking signs put on the ramps here from 40 on to 75. And then we've also posted some no truck parking out on Worldwide Place and Corporate Center. And we've also, ODOT worked with us on some improved signage, directional signage out on the highways as well. Some other things, and Chief Aldhouse talked about this earlier, some of their enforcement and training they're doing for commercial truck traffic. We've also working with the OSP and ODOT and other stakeholders with just relationships and helping and get their advice and their input and whatever assistance they can give us in some of these things as well. Some other things that we're going to be working on here really soon. This top one is coming out here in the next week. We're going to put some right turn prohibitions for tractor trailers over 50 foot. And so when they come out of Capstone Way and Fieldstone Way on the Peters, we're going to make them turn left to go up to National Road. And then when they get up to National Road, we're going to have a no right turn sign for these trucks that are over 50 feet. So they're going to have to turn left to go over to the Airport Access Road. So they won't be able to come up to Peters and turn right towards the central part of the city. We're also going to post some no through truck signs on Stone Quarry Road and Helke Road, and we'll probably do that on Mulberry Road as well, because we don't want a truck, if he gets to Stone Quarry and can't go through, go over to Mulberry, and then we also got the curve down there, so we don't want to get a truck stuck on that roadway as well. And then we're going to look forward at doing some parking prohibitions on Capstone and Fieldstone, and we're going to be putting some signs up here very soon also on Shoals and Industrial Park to eliminate the parking overnight there. So there'll be no parking on those roads between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. One other thing that wasn't on a slide here, but I want to bring up, if you remember back in 2017, we had LJB come in and did a study for us on this, and we put up some other signage back then, which is the large green sign out on Peters Pike and on National Road directing the trucks to use the Airport Access Road. And we also put the signs up here at Northwoods and Dixie telling trucks to go down Northwoods to 75 and that they would not be able to turn left or turn right when they get up to National Road on Dixie. So we think that's helped. You'll see in the counts there's still a couple a day maybe that might make that movement, but we've eliminated a lot of them, we feel, because they can't make that turn safely up there. Some other things we got coming is, I know we've been working with different elected officials and Senator Huffman's office and Manager Wentz been mostly involved in this and working on some, if there is the potential to have a prohibition of the through trucks on National Road. We've kind of run into roadblocks most of our times, but hopefully we're getting somewhere here with that. And I know Jerry's also written some proposed legislation for that to be considered as well. The other thing, if you remember, started a few years ago, but we worked on the safety study in the downtown area to try to kind of do a road diet to some degree and eliminate some of the lanes of traffic on National Road between Ranch View and Dixie. We were not funded in the safety study. We thought we had a very good project. ODOT thought we had a very good project as well. It was not selected to be funded. ODOT actually hired a third-party consultant themselves to help us kind of work through a plan that could potentially be funded, but as of now, we've kind of, I think, tabled that for right now as far as us moving forward with that. So now we'll get into the counts themselves, and first I want to talk about how those are done. The methodology we use for this, if you see on that pole there, the skinny rod sticking up in the air, that is the software, the unit that's used to count this traffic. So when we do this, we're set up, we counted at 3 intersections, we do them all at the same time. So we have accurate counts of exactly what's going on at the same time at every intersection. The software program is called MyoVision, and we used Oaks Engineering. They have the equipment to do this, and they provided all the data for us. So basically what that does, there's a camera on there, and it observes the whole intersection, and it counts all traffic. The data is uploaded to the cloud, and then you can tell them what you want extracted from that data to what type of vehicles you want separated out, if any. It'll give you the total traffic, and you can break it down however you want to do it in there. This software is pretty much an industry standard in what everyone's using to count traffic, and it's what accepted and most of the engineering firms are using. We counted Tuesday through Thursday, and that's typically what engineering firms and the state represented or ODOT uses. That's what they base their traffic on. And if you want to utilize this information to apply for grants to show safety concerns at intersections and stuff, you have to use the data from those days to when you present to them and using your applications. This data was recorded. The first count we did was November 30th, December 1st. We had a third day in there. There was an issue on that day once we looked at the data and looked back, and I even checked with Kurt Althouse, and there was a crash on I-70, and it was shut down. And so the traffic, it was all skewed so much because there was so much traffic coming through town that we didn't feel like that was a very representative day to use in our study. So the first counts we did is really a 2-day count, but it's still on those days, the Wednesday, Thursday day. And then the second one we did was on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
And so, Director Cron, understanding how that data is still good, when the information is presented to you in this presentation, it's shown as the average number of trucks that came per day. So you've got the 2 average days for November 30th and December 1st, and then May 23rd through the 25th, you're showing the average daily count. And the idea behind this is that as more facilities in Union and Dayton or wherever come online, you can come back and take this same measurement and understand what, if any, impact there is.
Right, and that was, back there just a second. So one thing we did, the dates in November and December when we took, that was pretty much when the US 40 project was completed out there. All the signals were up and operational and functioning like they're supposed to be at the finished product. So we thought that was a great time to take those counts. We didn't want to do it during construction or before all the signals were up and operational. So that's why those were taken then, and then those other ones are about 6 months later, but we think there was at least 2 more facilities that opened up out west and became operational. So that was kind of how we picked those. And just one thing about the counts, just throw it in there. When we do these counts, it's about a $4,200 was what we paid for these last sets of counts to be done. So each time we're doing that, that's what we're spending on having the counts done through this program. So what's a truck? And when we talk about what we're counting, and this is what I talked about when we asked this company or our consultant asked this company what we want to pull out of that data. So what we're counting is a Class 8 and above vehicle as an articulated truck, and that's what we're looking for. Those are our problems. I think, the box trucks, the delivery trucks, the dump trucks are not counted in this, but really those are usually destination vehicles going somewhere specific in town. So what we're looking at is these articulated trucks. What we're thinking, they're the through vehicles that we're really looking to mitigate if we can. So those, when you look at our numbers, the truck counts are anything that's inside that blue box on there, Class 8 and up. So this is just looking at the intersections we studied. The two out west, the ramps, the southbound ramps, which is the farthest one on the left, we had a camera set up there. The other ramp next to that, we did not have a camera set up there, but between the counts we did at Peters Pike, which is the next one, we could interpolate those numbers and just through addition and subtraction come up with counts at that intersection. And then the far one to the right is the Dixie and National intersection. So this is the airport access road. This is the southbound ramp where you get on to go down towards I-70, and then where the red circle is, that's the ramp coming out of the airport, but that's just showing you where the camera is there in the picture. So a couple takeaways from this is basically, obviously there's a lot of truck traffic heading eastbound from Air Park Boulevard, and when those trucks get to the southbound ramp, one thing we noticed in both days, the counts were almost identical in the percentage of trucks. 79% of the trucks coming from Air Park Boulevard heading towards Vandalia are actually getting on the airport access road and going south, which is actually a higher percentage than I would have guessed. So that's a good thing that we're getting that high a percentage of those trucks actually turning and going south on there. The comparisons from the November and December, I think we show 79% there. It was 78.6% when we did the count in May. So it's almost identical, the percentage of trucks that are turning there. And really we've seen little change in the total numbers of trucks with the addition of a couple new facilities opening up out on Union Air Park.
Do we have any data from the previous count there? What percentage was going south there?
Which, from
Any of the previous traffic studies, do we have anything that indicates what percentage of traffic was going south on airport access? Would be a good comparison to that.
Well, we just have the two that we've done. That's what we're showing here. I'd have to look back at maybe at some old data from when they were designing the 40 project out there. They may have those counts, but they were also not pulling out articulated trucks specifically either. At that time, they were classifying them as an A and a B, which those counted the box trucks, delivery trucks as well. So while we could look at it, it wouldn't be a comparison of apples to those.
Okay.
This is specifically the articulated truck.
Rob, did you say that the study was Class 8 and 9, or just Class 8?
8 and up.
8 and 9?
8.
All the way,
8 through
9,
13.
10, 11?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So that's what we're counting, everything
Okay.
8 and above.
Very good.
So this is an example of the counts that we look at in the other tables that are in the file. So this is total traffic at that ramp. So just to explain the numbers a little bit, the ones out here, this is just vehicles either coming into or leaving that ramp intersection. And then this indicates the ones that turn or not. And these numbers are actual total vehicles, not just the trucks. So if you go to the next slide, I believe is the trucks. So yeah, so basically they're in one day in that 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., there's 379 trucks coming from Air Park Boulevard. And 303 of them turn south on the airport access road, and 76 go straight across the bridge. And then you have on this side, this would be 455 trucks come across the airport access road bridge towards that intersection. And I think 99 of them actually turn south to go on the access road as well, and 356 are going on out to Air Park Boulevard. And those are the percentage of those, each of those that are going those directions.
But just to clarify, that 455 going westbound on National,
That would.
that could be stuff coming off the airport access road.
That could,
making a left
yeah,
turn
and we'll
going
see
west.
those numbers later. I might even have that information right here. Yeah, that 455 is what's coming from town, but also what's coming off the northbound ramp, and we'll see that number, so we can
And
figure out.
that's just the November, December count.
That's the November, December count, yes.
Okay.
So then this is the average amount of articulated trucks per hour during those times. So if you look, I guess maybe the key one is this number here, this 6.3. So in the average hour, there's 6.3 trucks leaving Air Park Boulevard that go across the bridge. And then 25 an hour actually turn to go south onto the ramp. So coming from the bridge, you got 6.4 trucks an hour that are actually going across the bridge. All right. And we've kind of put these numbers in different ways to show different ways to look at it. This is the average time between a truck. If you take all the trucks in that whole 12 hours, divide it by the number of minutes in those 12 hours. So basically, coming across the Airport Access Road Bridge, coming towards town, you have a truck every 9 minutes and 21 seconds. Versus you have one every minute 35 seconds going the other way, but that's that large number that was the 455 and some of those coming off of the ramp. All right. So this is the percentage of all traffic that is actually an articulated truck. So coming up to Airport Access Road from Air Park Boulevard, you have 6.45% of the traffic is a truck, a semi-truck. But the amount of those that go across the bridge is only 1.88% of it is a truck that crosses that bridge of all traffic. I think those are kind of the key numbers that we're looking at. That's the truck that we would say is coming towards the city from out there. And so now we go to, this is the May counts, and this is just the total traffic again, but if you go to the next one, this is what compares to that first slide, and I think it was 379. And so remember we were 79% that was turning to go south on the ramp. In May when we did it, there's 78%. So the numbers are almost identical as they were from November to May. The numbers really haven't, I mean, they're within a couple, handful of trucks in either direction of staying the same, which you might think, well, we haven't done anything to reduce that, but we've also know that there's more facilities out there operating and the traffic has not increased, or the truck traffic has not increased. So, okay. And so these are basically the same looking numbers, it's just these are the May counts. They're very, very similar. Going to the next one, I think, so this is the one, I think, so there's actually, this number right here is kind of significant. There's a truck every 8.8 minutes that we just counted that comes across the bridge to the east. And then back in November, there was a truck every 7.19 or 7 minutes, 19 seconds. So there's actually less trucks going across that bridge now than there were. This is just the total percentage of trucks again, and versus all traffic. And if you remember, that was a 1.88 in November, so it's 1.9. So it's really basically no change in the percentage of traffic that is actual trucks. So these next ones, this is the northbound ramp, say coming off of the access road to get off on the 40. Like I say, and I mentioned, we did not actually do counts there, but by looking at the Peters intersection and the other one, we could add and subtract and come up with the numbers, so they were just interpolated there. And we'll get into some number, a significant number in here in a little bit, compared to the Peters intersection. So I guess we can go on to the next one. So some takeaways from this is the truck traffic primarily is heading to the west, which you'll see those numbers here in a second. In comparison, from November to May, there were 250 more vehicles per day, just in the total traffic counts, but only one of which was a truck. So out of the 250 more vehicles, only one of those was a truck. Let's see, we had 10% more total vehicles a day traveling US 40 and 9% more trucks traveling eastbound. So at that ramp, this is the total vehicles. So you can just see that's the total number of total traffic out there with everything. So go to the next one, will be the trucks. So this is what's, that number we were looking at, that was the 455 going across the bridge to the west. 294 of those are coming off that northbound ramp, which is what we want them to do. That means they're using that access road. So when you look here, this 99 number is the number of trucks that get off of the airport access road and turn right.
And do we believe a large percentage of that is Carter?
Yes, and we'll show that here in just a minute. I have the numbers. Yeah, so basically you've got this 176 coming through town, but 99 of them are coming off of Peters Pike. Or coming
Northbound
off of
ramp.
the access road going towards Peters Pike, yes. And so of those trucks coming off of there, you can see 25% of them is what turns right, just under 75% is what turns left to go across the bridge. All right. And this is just the number per hour calculation again. So you have 8 trucks per hour, 8.3 trucks per hour are turning right off of the airport access road to come in towards the city, in relation to the 24 per hour that are actually turning left. Okay. This is just the time between trucks. So you got one every 7 minutes, 16 seconds is turning right to come towards town. Overall, trucks heading from the airport access road towards the city you got one every 4 minutes out there that's heading that direction. But you'll see in a minute that many of those turn to go south on the Peters Pike. They don't make it all the way to town. Okay. And this is just the percentage of total traffic that's out there. So you can look here, 3.36% of the traffic leaving the airport access road is an articulated truck. Okay. And this is just comparison of these are the May counts. So one thing to note, go to the next one where the trucks are, and this is where I have this number. There's 100, in May, there was actually, I think there was 99 in November, and there's 100 in May that turn right. Of those 100 trucks, so you got 186 trucks going this direction, 100 of them came off of the access road, and 100 of them turned south on the Peters Pike. So basically, almost every truck that turns right off of the access road goes down Peters Pike, almost exactly the same number. And so one thing to note about that, of this 186 that are going this direction, 86 go past Peters. So that's how many you have coming into town in a day from that direction. And you'll see those numbers when we get to the Dixie counts. This is just the average per hour trucks. So basically on National Road, between Airport Access Road and Peters, heading east, you have a truck every 15. You have 15 trucks an hour. I think the next slide will show that that's probably around just under 4. Every 4 minutes, there's a truck heading eastbound on National Road from the Airport Access Road. While the majority of the trucks are still heading this direction, you can see there's a truck every 2.5 minutes that turn left to go west. And this is just the percentage of total traffic again. So you can see we're still right around that 3% that we were in November. I think it's actually just a hair less in this month than it was in November. Okay, so I think we should, so next we're looking at the Peters Pike intersection. And this is one of the areas where we're going to be putting up the signs prohibiting that right turn on the National Road. Okay, so basically, most of the trucks that are out here are going between Peters Pike and the Airport Access Road or Airport Boulevard. The eastbound trucks that turn right onto Peters usually head back out that way again too. So they're just basically coming and going out of Peters to the west. The comparisons from the November counts and the May counts, there's 10 trucks a day less that turn east from Peters Pike than there were. There were 10 less per day in May than there were back in November. There's 8 more westbound trucks a day turning on the south to Peters Pike. And that was a little bit of an increase. So those would be the trucks coming from town out to Carter, or it's mainly the Carter trucks going down Peters Pike. So, and basically, this is similar to the other intersections. The numbers really didn't change much at all. The biggest difference was the decrease in the amount of trucks that turned right on the National from Peters Pike. So that's the total traffic there at Peters Pike and National Road. So just like this number, this 5148, that's the total number of vehicles on an average day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. that are going eastbound on National Road at that location. Right. So here's the truck count, the total truck counts in a 12-hour period at the Peters Pike intersection. So you can see right here, of the trucks that are coming north on Peters when they get to National Road, 26% turn towards the city and 73% go the other way. And if you remember, those numbers coming off the ramps were in the 90, right around 90 and 100. So the big number here, I think, or the number to think about is there's 34 trucks that come up to Peters Pike and turn right. And so once we put these signs up, those trucks should be eliminated. I'm not sure there'll be 1 or 2 that still get through there, but with Kurt's help, we'll get that down to 0.
So if I'm understanding this right, then that's saying that we've got 105 trucks that drive through town per day.
There's 106 trucks that are heading east of Peters Pike. Yeah, that's this number right here. In a 12-hour period, there's 106 trucks in November that were going eastbound.
That's right, I just can't add. I was looking at the
But
34 and
90
72.
91 trucks are coming
Out of the town.
westbound,
Yes,
probably coming off of 75 through town, correct?
right. And so 23 of those actually turn left to go down Peters, and 67 continue on out west. Yeah, so that 91 is how many are coming from town. And those numbers are really close to the numbers at Dixie too. So it's minus a few because there are some destination places making deliveries, but those numbers are going to be really close to the numbers you'll see at the Dixie intersection. But this 104 are coming from this way and actually turning south. So those 104 and this 94 are actually doing what we want. We're going to add this 34 number to them with our signage is the plan. So this is just the average per hour. So basically, the numbers out of here,
Could you go back to the previous chart?
Sure.
So we're saying trucks going through town on National, 106 of them were going east and 91 of them were going west.
Correct.
So we have approximately 200 trucks per day, or from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Correct.
that will,
Yes, and you'll
Be the
see
main
that
part of
reflected later, yes.
Okay.
In a 12-hour period, there's about 200 trucks, counting both directions. Or 197 at
Yeah.
that spot.
got it.
This is the average per hour, so what those numbers correlate to is you have about 8.8 an hour heading towards town and 7.5 per hour heading out of town at that intersection.
So it's less than every 5 minutes, there's a truck
Yeah,
rolling through
that
town.
number will be on the next one, so actually it's 7 minutes. So you got a truck every 7 minutes going into town and one about every 8 minutes coming out of town. So you have 2 trucks in about 7.5 minutes. But going one way or the other. And that's just to east of the Peters intersection.
So
So-
a resident along through there sees a truck approximately every 3 minutes then, whether it be eastbound or westbound.
3.5 to 4 minutes, yes.
Yeah,
During the peak hours, which is what they call 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., yes. I think those numbers are a little better, I guess we'll say, in the May counts. We'll see when we get to them, but. But what, I guess one number to think about is the percentage of traffic that is trucks. So this 2.06% is what's going, of all traffic. And 1.89% of all traffic is a truck that's heading, it's on National Road. So that's, that's 2 out of every 100 vehicles is a truck, basically, out there. All right. So now we just get into the May numbers. That's the total traffic. If you go on to the next one. So here's where we're looking at the numbers again. And if you remember, this was 34 in November, and it was only 24 that turned that way.
So we got about a 5% increase.
It's a decrease.
Well,
Went from 34 down to 24.
no, I'm talking about traffic going eastbound or westbound, just through town. In December, we had 197, and in May, we got 211.
Go back there.
Yeah, you're right, 211.
Yeah, so that's.
Oh, that
about
number,
five-
yeah, 211
Yeah.
there, yes.
I mean, that's what everybody's interested in, right?
yes.
The total truck, yeah. There's 211 an average day during that
And
time
there
period,
was
during the 7.
197. So about 5% increase.
I could be wrong, Rob, but the only, I think the statistics bear out that there has been some good done with mitigation, because I think there's
Right.
more capacity than 11 trucks in a day that has been created, and so the mitigation has worked. I think the caveat to the study is it was done Tuesday through Thursday, which are 3 out of the 5 days. It's been my particular experience that Monday and Fridays are your biggest days because trucks run over the weekend. I don't know what the distribution patterns are for all of those warehouses, but those guys want to load so they can run over the weekend and pick up another load. So Mondays and Fridays are your absolute biggest loading days, and they would skew these numbers. Again, it's predicated on the type of freight and also what the radius of those warehouses service, so, and I don't know that. But the only red flag that I see is that the sample data could be skewed by 40% in terms of the volumes being, I think, much higher on the Friday and the Monday because it connects to the weekend as opposed to Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Other than that, the numbers, and plus we have a comparison, so I think they're fairly valid for those days. And that, I think in relation to what we've tried to achieve are good. But if the average resident sees a truck every 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes, it's still a lot of trucks. And if your kid's driving through town and he's 16 years old and he's gonna pass 1 or 2 trucks in what is should be a small town atmosphere, and it is not. And I think the erosion of that is predicated on the truck traffic. But overall, again, that's a nice number. When you say it's only 2% of all the traffic, that's great. And you're gonna experience truck traffic just about anywhere. But if you go through you go through Centerville or Kettering, you don't see a truck every 3 minutes.
Neither of them have a US route going
Correct,
through them
correct.
as an alternate to I-70.
I get you, and that's the point being, the crux of the issue is the moratorium is the only way that is gonna preempt this. But it does show that, both the chief's work and your work in terms of the road and several of the ideas that Dan has had, have all contributed, in a positive way, to achieving our goal.
Well, I think just this new signage that we're proposing out there, if you can take 24 to 34 trucks.
If you
off
get rid of
that-
Carter,
that
you're gonna do a
110
lot of-
number there,
lot of
you've
help
just
there.
eliminated 25% of that traffic.
Of the
Yeah.
eastbound traffic,
Yeah,
correct?
of the eastbound traffic,
You're
correct.
right.
One of the things that I would interject, Mr. Lewis, is we're working with Jason Oakes as our traffic, as our person
He's our
who's doing
consultant.
these counts.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, he's our consultant we're using.
Our consultant, our traffic engineer who's looking at this. And per our prior discussions, I brought to him the concerns that you had expressed about Mondays and Fridays being heavy loading, knowing that he's from Butler Township, that he's a traffic engineer in these areas. We asked him to look specifically at whether he thought there were increased loads on those days and whether it merited doing a Monday through Friday or a Monday and Friday sort of count. He didn't think that it was worth the money at that time. If that's something that council would like to see, we can do a 5-day count on the next measurement. Our reason for going 7A to 7P Tuesday through Thursday, primarily what we'd like to do is, in these repeated measurements, be able to show a trend. What is the behavior? If it's 5% on one
that's
time,
valid.
it could be an aberration. But when we work with the Legislative Services Commission to do analyses for a prohibition that comes out of the State House on US 40, we need to be able to show them 7A to 7P Tuesday through Thursday because that's what ODOT uses.
That's their measurement, all
Yeah.
right.
And then if we don't do what is otherwise the industry standard, they'll say, well, your data is not good compared to the thousands of other measurements we've done because you didn't take it in the same
I
way.
didn't catch that was the
That was the-
standard measurement.
My
for Tuesday
apologies,
through
sir.
Thursday.
That was and that's the advice of our third party.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Rob, to ask a question that earlier, I don't know if it was Councilman Ehlers or who mentioned it, but, so I understand that both the November, December study and this May study was able to break down the articulated trucks
Yes,
and single them out.
yes.
And are the data from prior, because I know that we had a traffic study, and I don't remember the time, but I know it was when Chief Althouse was acting city manager. We had a traffic study done at that time. But I'm assuming that data in no way tells us the number of trucks going through
The
town?
counts that were done, they were done in 2015, and it was when they were doing the preliminary design work for the US 40 project, they were counting trucks, or counting traffic and trucks, and we paid extra money to have that consultant count them in town as well. And I do have that data. I looked at it today, but the trucks they were extracting from the data weren't just articulated trucks. They were all trucks, which
Yeah.
considered a box truck, a
So
FedEx truck, a
their
delivery truck.
definition of a truck
But
back
what,
then-
at that point, I did look at that today specifically for this reason, and at that time, the percentage of trucks was 4%. The total traffic numbers were fairly close, but they were counting, what they came up with was 4% of the traffic was trucks, but that also, like I say, that counted additional trucks that we're not counting now, so, but it was still
Compared
twice
to
as many.
2%.
Yeah.
And some change now.
Yeah.
At that
'Cause I-
time,
Because I think that's, I mean, knowing that both of these studies have been done post basically all the mitigation factors that we've done. I mean, the widening of 40, the 70, 75 interchange was no longer under construction.
Right.
You know, so nothing, we haven't done anything else since November, December. I mean, unless I'm wrong here. We haven't done anything additional since November, December of 2022 that we weren't doing since, does that make sense?
We haven't
done anything
nothing's
different.
changed since then.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
So.
And that's why.
And we don't have any data to see how bad it was
Before that.
before that, even if it's not looking at everything the same, because I mean, yes, it's great to see that we're down to 2%, but I just think there's been a marked improvement from where it was prior to everything that the city has done. I don't think it's nearly, and especially given the fact that you've got more capacity that has come on board west of the airport in that time, that for us still to be at 2% of truck traffic, of all traffic going through 40, given everything is, to me,
I think good.
remarkable. I mean,
And
I think that's
I agree.
remarkable.
When you see the numbers when we get to the Dixie intersection, those percentages are even less. We're down to like 1.3% of the traffic is articulated trucks. So I think we talked about most of the Peters information. We were somewhere, that's where we were last. This is just some of the same information, the average per hour, and then the next slide should be the per minute, or how many minutes between a truck during those times. But like I say, once we get the signage up at Peters and National, that's gonna help significantly on those numbers, in that alone. This is just the percentage of the daily traffic. So there you can see we're under 2% of the traffic is actually trucks at that point. So the next intersection is at Dixie and National. You can see where the camera was there on the front of Rite Aid. That's where that traffic was counted. So most of the traffic obviously there is heading east and west. In all counts, I believe, the total number of trucks is less than 1.4% at that intersection. And that's less than a truck every 7 minutes for each direction. And we also say the increased eastbound truck counts noticed at other intersections do not come as far as Dixie. I think we lose 6 to 8 trucks a day, something like that, that are coming, that are heading east from Peters Pike that don't make it to Dixie. They go somewhere in town. There's, somewhere in that 6 to 8 a day that do that actually are
car
going
transports or whatever.
delivery or somewhere. All right. Also here, basically, the same total vehicles in both counts is what we've seen. That daily traffic of all traffic doesn't change much there. There's a slight decrease actually in the number of trucks coming right through our downtown area from November to May, which is a good sign. And despite the signage, which even when we put these new ones up, there's still a couple trucks a day that make that right turn from Dixie on to National Road. We catch a lot of them, but not all of them. But we have not had a pole run over lately, so knock on wood. So this is the total traffic from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at that intersection, going in each direction and making each motion. So if you look here, this just tells you back there, there's about 1,600 and almost 1,400 trucks, or no, total traffic, 15,000 trucks or traffic a day on National Road from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So many vehicles. So here's the truck counts at those intersections. So you see, I think we had 111 and 109 made it to Dixie. Actually, that was a higher number back in May. Okay, yeah, so we're here. So basically, so right here, this is the number that's kind of key. That's between National and Dixie and say the Ranch View intersection. So you have just under 200 trucks a day on that stretch of National Road from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And so you can still see here, we had the 2 trucks that made that right turn, and we had 4 trucks that made that illegal right turn as well. But you have then 88 trucks that are going through that intersection pretty much in each direction.
Does the report indicate any particular times that are busier than others? Like, say, is evening more busy than?
Yes, there's 2 charts, PDF attachments in here, and it'll pull out. And I think in most instances on the days, it was like between 11 and 12, and then in that 3:30 to 4:30 time frames that seem to have the most. I think they're highlighted. You have to blow those up, but I think those green areas are the peak hours. And it's probably not going to show on somewhat the low numbers, but like those are the peak hours, I believe, when, I'm not sure which intersection that is. Those are low numbers, but. But
Yeah, so the
if
point
you go
being-
through those charts, it'll show it has it every 15.
Yeah, they're on there.
The
I
counts
have it
are
looked
actually every 15 minutes.
Okay.
It'll show how many went through there every 15-minute increment.
So,
And I know 11:30 rings the bell that was like the highest number during the day.
Mr. Cron, and so the behavior of, I'm coming from Union, from the west side of town, I go down National Road, and then I'm heading to Flying J. That's what this number is?
That would be that 20 number, yes, the one turning left there.
Or I'm going to Northwoods or whatever?
Yeah, that would be coming there and turning left onto Dixie Drive. So there's 20 of those a day. So this is the average per hour that are making that. So this was in November. So you have basically 8 trucks an hour going each direction on National Road, east of Dixie Drive.
Well,
And then this is
I
the,
hadn't looked at May.
that's
Basically,
coming
the
up.
numbers are same.
What's that? We'll get to that one here in a minute. I mean, yeah, that slide's coming up. So yeah, if you remember the 8 and the 8.3. So the next slide then shows there's a truck every little over 7 minutes in each direction. So basically every 7 minutes, there's 2 trucks that go by. I mean, this is the one we're talking about, the percentage of all traffic. So on National Road, east of Dixie Drive, the percentage of traffic that is an articulated truck is right around that 1.3%. All right, and then these are the May counts. So if you go to the next one, it'll have those. That's the total traffic in, which is about the same, just under 15,000. And so on this one, you have 95 trucks in each direction. So it's
That's it.
almost, yeah. basically just under 200 trucks a day go through that stretch. Yeah, these numbers changed very little from November to May. So when you go here, we're right at that 8 per hour, which then calculates to the next one, you know, about one every 7.5 minutes.
And do you know off the
Each
top of your
direction.
head what that time is during the peak hours? Because I think that's what's most noticeable to people. If it's in that 11:30 to, say, 1:30, that number could be 1.5.
Yeah, we could look at that data and on those charts and pull that out. Yeah, we can get that, provide that to me. I'll send
Or if it's in there, I'll
It's
go
in there,
report
yeah.
myself.
You just have to go through it and pull it out of there.
'Cause the
Yeah,
numbers are
it's on all
encouraging.
the charts. Every 15 minutes is calculated and it'll show on that.
Mm-hmm.
There's,
Yeah, because overall, I think the numbers are encouraging. I mean, it doesn't sound that bad.
but if you're there at 11:30, right,
If
you're
you're
probably
there-
going to see it more often.
Or say 2:30, 3:30 in the afternoon, you would look at that and not understand it at all.
Yeah, it's a snapshot of if you're driving down National and you see 2 trucks or 3 trucks at that 5 minutes, then that's your perception of
Of
what
the
it's
whole
like all
day.
the time.
Right, and if we did a 24-hour count, those numbers, would be a lot less percentage or less, there would be more time between
certainly
trucks
hope
if you
so.
averaged over 24 hours. What's that?
We certainly hope so.
Yeah. But if you remember, when we talked to that other consultant, the total truck numbers were very comparable or less to when Emory Freight was still operating at those intersections.
But they were mostly during the night. and early
They
morning,
ran,
where
they were
weren't
more of a
impacting
24-hour
the
operation,
city.
yeah.
Rob, was that study 7A to 7P or no?
I think those were 24-hour counts back then.
So if you cut them in half, it was more or it was less than this?
I was just, I was looking at the percentages of it. I do have the numbers. There's some charts they had with that study that I can provide you.
Rob, so that says that 2.4 trucks per hour are turning right.
You're not allowed to do that.
Is that right? I mean, because it says there's only 5 trucks a day that turn right, so how could that be 2.4 per hour?
I think that's one every 2.4 hours.
Oh,
It's every 2.4 hours.
okay.
I know
Turns right?
it's the only- yeah.
That are getting through there.
So you got one going, yeah, every 2.5 hours, a truck turns right there.
Okay. And one thing I've noticed, and I don't know whether it's the GPS direction or the signage, but when I look out the window at my office, probably every time I look out, there's a truck either doing a U-turn, coming south on Dixie and doing a U-turn to go back north, or going through that old golf cart business and turning back north, or going through the shopping center and going back north. So there's something making those trucks
Yeah,
not
there's
come to
there's a
there.
sign up there that says they can't turn right.
Right.
And
But
they pass 2 of them before they get there telling them they can't do that.
Right. But I mean, I guess there,
It says no turns, right?
No,
that's
no
what the
right
sign
turns.
says. It says,
It's no
well,
right
then the sign
turns.
says no turn.
And those signs are 26-foot trucks, so those are even like the box trucks are not supposed to turn right there because they can't. When we had that study done, the engineering says they cannot make that turn, stay off of the curb and sidewalk, and stay
out of
within
the
the
other
lane they're
lane.
turning into.
I can't.
Yeah,
The
so
one-
that's why those are 26-foot. The ones we're putting out west are 50-foot trucks.
And to clarify, I believe the one that's at Dixie and Northwoods says, hey, there's no turns at Dixie and National, but when you get up to the intersection, it says there's no right
Right.
turns.
But a
And
lot
that's
of
because of the engineering reason,
They just
Yes.
go around.
even
Right.
though we're attempting to deter them.
Right.
From
There's
the-
even a sign as you come out of the Flying J parking lot telling you that.
Right.
That you're
That's
supposed to
what
go
it
to the
is. Yeah,
highway.
no turns, I thought, okay.
And then we have one at the Dixie Northwoods intersection as you pull up to it, telling that there's no trucks turning at Dixie.
Who's heating and air conditioning? These things on. Who's heating and air conditioning?
All right, so this,
They've been there a couple months.
this is the May numbers, but and if you look, these percentages are actually a little bit better in May. They were averaged a little over 1.3% of the traffic was trucks back in November, and it's maybe a little under 1.3 now. not sure if there's anything else in that one. Okay. All right. So, questions?
So you took all the data and put into these charts, basically? You extrapolated all this
Oh,
to?
for the graphics, yeah, this
Graphics,
is
yeah.
what he provided us.
Oh, so you had a template?
A
and you just
template,
put the
and we
numbers in?
put it into the,
Okay. That's a lot
well,
of
we
work.
split it up into the different ways to per hour and how long between
Yeah.
trucks, so that you could see it in every way possible. But these are the charts that are in there for the counts, and the green ones are, like, you can see the numbers are higher in the green if you go clear over to the right, and those would be the peak hours. So that one was actually a 9:30 timeframe.
But you took all that data and put into that template?
Yes.
Yeah. And did all the percentages and everything? That's a lot of
Yes.
work.
Well, it's going to give us a good baseline going forward over the next
absolutely.
number of years to compare to.
And in different
And then,
ways.
and going forward, now that we've got 2 now, but when we get to maybe 3 or 4 counts, then you can put them on a chart and see,
Right.
are we going up and down, and what the trends are too, assuming we want to keep counting those.
Right, and
So-
like you said,
So
look at
remember,
the trends.
we'll budget, we'll talk about that at budget time too.
So the conclusion that I gather is there's been no change in the truck traffic in the last 6 months.
It's gone down.
I guess the takeaway
Right,
maybe
primarily.
would be, you're right, the amount of trucks we're seeing has relatively stayed the same,
Right.
even though we know
There's been
there's
more
more
warehouses.
trucks out
Yeah.
west leaving,
Right.
so,
So if you, I mean, I'm looking at December versus May, I'm just saying that's 6 months. So basically, the truck traffic has stayed steady over the last 6 months.
the numbers have, yes.
Yeah,
So realistically, we're not going to eliminate trucks through town.
right.
What is, or what does the traffic engineer suggest is a acceptable amount of trucks to be going through there?
That's a policy
That's a-
question. That's
that's
your
a-
perception.
That's an opinion, I guess. I don't know what would be. I mean, if you would look at, if somebody would, I mean, this is my.
Well, I know we have
my
a,
take.
we have a US Route
Right.
40, which a lot of other cities do not have a federal highway going through their city. I just want to see what is realistic.
Right. I guess I would think someone would look at what's been built around and what we're dealing with. And when we say we only have 1.3% of our traffic is a truck coming through town, they would probably think that's pretty good. But, and while the numbers are still high, but when you think of overall traffic, I would say.
But if we had 5 more warehouses, we don't expect that number to maintain. It's not realistic.
Unless we deter them somewhere.
I mean,
Also.
with the efforts, we're putting forward, we hope.
There's been a lot of work done on, coming east. Oh, jeez. You guys can hear me. There's been a lot of work done on coming east. But looking at these numbers, the trucks that come, are coming, off of 75, going west through town, really haven't talked about much.
No, and those numbers, they're actually about the same number.
Right, and, maybe we could put more thought into how to make that less.
Well, and I think
Whether it's-
that's some of the things we talked about with ODOT and signage,
Signaling.
directional signage. They won't, and correct me if I'm wrong, when we spoke to them, they won't put businesses on their highway signage to direct you to them. Like, I think that what they did put on there was to the airport. Was that the directional signage they? But we can't say, if you're going to P&G warehouse, stay on 75, go down to 70.
Yeah, but if you got on 70, when they get off of 75, going north or south, there's nowhere to go except through National downtown. So,
Right.
I mean, putting up a sign there won't do you any good because there's only one way they can go.
Well-
And that's a left turn.
Well, in the future with the ring road around the airport, the idea would be they get off at Northwoods and they go around the north side of the airport.
So I think, yeah, that's going to help
Yep.
significantly from,
Understand.
especially with the number of trucks that are targeting Flying J as their destination at some point. And that's the potential issue. Say we could get a through truck prohibition on 40 in some way, if that could happen. But if you're going to a fueling station, are you considered a through truck, because you're going to a destination? So that might be a problematic enforcing that, even if we would be able to post the road that way, because they say, well, I have to go get fuel, so I'm going to a destination. I'm not just driving through your town. So that's one issue to consider at that point.
I think a real big takeaway from this is that 8 out of 10 trucks are going down the airport access road, and so there's a lot of justified concern about some of the irresponsible development that's going on the west side of the airport north of 40. And as folks are coming in, knowing that 2 out of 10 are coming through town and that the airport access road is being used the way that it's been intended is actually a really good win, and the same with people coming into town. I would also point out too, one of the things that Chief Althouse did was ensure that the police officers who are assigned to patrol have been trained in commercial vehicle enforcement, and that isn't something that we had for a long time, or there was a lot of worry about doing that sort of enforcement. And I think we write a lot of warnings on purpose because we're not trying to hurt, hardworking blue-collar truck drivers. But when we stop them, we advise them of the airport access road, the laws in the town that we have. If they are somebody who's on a repeated route, they think twice about coming through again.
Is a right turn on Dixie a ticketable offense, or is that a warning?
There's discretion for the police officer. They can write a ticket for that moving violation or not.
Okay.
I think two things probably working against us a little bit. In the trucks that are out west wanting to go either northbound on 75 or to Flying J, and these are kind of out of our control, but when you get down, if you go to take the airport access road and go 70 eastbound to go northbound, you have that ramp, that's the circle ramp still, which there's been multiple accidents on. So some trucks could be avoiding that if they want to go north, or if they're even going to Flying J to take that route. Also, when you're coming northbound on 75 and you go under Route 40, to get over to turn and get off at the exit ramp at Northwoods Boulevard is a very tough maneuver. I know that because I get on there at night going home, and it's hard to get on if somebody's trying to get over, and trucks don't. I've actually seen trucks come up the ramp at 40, go straight across and right back down the other ramp because they're going to get off at Northwoods. So those two isolated things are probably not helping our cause, but I'm not sure that there's anything that we can do about that with the ramp down there, and then also this, we'll say, confusion area as you're on the north side of National Road, where people
There
are
isn't
trying to
much
get on the
space
highway
there,
and other
really.
people are trying to get off at Northwoods. That's a difficult movement. And like I say, I see it every night going home. I'm trying to get on the ramp there or on the highway, and somebody's trying to get over to Northwoods, and it's a tough movement at times. So I think that's a potential, not a potential, but that's an issue for us that I'm not sure what there is a solution for without improvements to the ramp or the highway. But still, it's part of it because those exits are so close together.
Okay.
A lot of good information.
Great.
And I have to give our city engineer, Ben, a lot of credit. He worked on these slides and did a lot of the calculations for these numbers too. So that was not my work, all my
Pretty
work.
good
Oh,
stuff.
he is the engineer.
Well, at least we know it's right now.
I ran out of
All right. Everybody ready to continue? All right, we have no public hearing, and that brings us to comments from interested citizens. So if someone would like to make a comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and your comment.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. I rise to request your support for our application for a variance regarding our house at 825 Old Farm Court. We selected our house here on the cul-de-sac on Old Farm Court because we had small children at the time. We love Vandalia so much, we've stayed here for the succeeding 36 years. And we love Vandalia and the people and the folks on the City Council. But we did win a beautification award. We're proud of our house. My wife Christy's master gardener. She's done a great job in plantings. We get compliments from the neighbors. And a unanimous 16 neighbors actually signed my petition of support for our solar panels and the variance request. So we have the solid support of our neighbors, not a single complaint. The lady actually on the south side of our house didn't notice solar panels. And when she noticed them, she said, that's a great thing that you're doing because you are getting your power from the sun instead of from burning coal at power plants. So we have great support from the neighbors. Moreover, our house doesn't violate the Vandalia Code governing solar panels. We have no solar panels on the front of our house. As I mentioned, we don't live on a corner, we live on a cul-de-sac, so this makes our case different from the variance requests which were denied. The city residents approved the rate aggregation to lower their utility rates, and of course, we were looking forward to lowering our rates by getting those solar panels. Solar shingles are really not as efficient as solar panels, not nearly as efficient, and also they're extremely expensive, more than twice as expensive as the panels. The city of Oakwood, with the toughest zoning code in our area, does not ban solar panels within view of roadways. So next slide, please. Okay, so here we are, 825 Old Farm Court. We're on the cul-de-sac on the left there. Next slide. And here's a front view. As you see, no solar panels on the front of our house, on the front of the roof there. Next slide, please. Another front view, no solar panels. Yep, next slide, please. And here's actually the south roof. This is actually seen, this is kind of a view that our neighbor might get, but she still doesn't see solar panels. She sees our trees, and our trees are continuing to grow, and the solar panels are way up there anyway. We have a two-story house, and the trees are getting huge, and so they're really covering them. Next slide, please. Okay, here's south side of the house. Solar panel view is really blocked by the trees. Next slide, please. Okay, another view, south side. Really, you can't see the solar panels because of the trees. Next slide, please. Okay, so we ask the council to grant our variance. I want to thank you for your time. Do you have any questions? Well, thank you very much. Yes.
I have one, Chuck.
Yes.
In so much as I mean, it's a very for me personally, this is a very thorny question because I don't want to open up Pandora's box when we've worked so hard on trying to legislate this thing so that we don't have people from the street seeing these solar panels. And yes, I believe your situation is somewhat unique, but I just saw 4 or 5 pictures obscuring the view from the street, but it's the summertime and there are all kinds of leaves there. And the other 8 months of the year, I've got sticks there, and I believe that the solar panels are visible.
Well, as you're driving up Old Farm Court, approaching the cul-de-sac.
The cul-de-sac.
You'll be, as a safe
I've been
driver,
down there.
And I know you're a safe driver, and you would be looking to the right because
I would be, but
around the
was
cul-de-sac.
nosing around.
Our solar panels are way up there, way up high above the second floor. And you're not going to be looking that way. You're going to be looking to the right because you're a safe driver.
Well, I'm thinking of the neighbors, and what is one of the things that's most dispositive is what generally is what the neighbors feel about somebody wanting a variance. You've got a lot of support here. My worry or concern is how do I, in the future, when the next person comes, how do I distinguish the variance here from the next person that wants to put a panel on the front for also probably good reasons, but the result to me is still the same. I have a solar panel facing the street, and
Well, you could argue it's not directly facing the street. It's not
and
on
it
the front
is,
of the house.
and
It's on the
a-
side of the house.
It's
visible
obscured,
from
it's
the
a
street.
cul-de-sac. You know, if you had a situation that a variance may be granted, this might be it. I wouldn't lose any sleep about this, but my issue here is that we've legislated this, we worked really hard on it, and in the future, this is sure to come up, and then how do we deny the next one when we approve this variance?
Well, I think I pointed out that we are really separated from the others and that we are on a cul-de-sac. And it's not a corner lot, and we don't have any on the front of the house. So I think that separates us from the others. So I would hope, really hope that you could see your way clear to giving us the variance on this one. Otherwise, we'll have to remove solar panels.
Chuck, I have a question that I think I may have asked before, but from the Google
He's just on his interest.
map, you can see it from the south, but if you take that square footage on the south and move it to the west part over the garage, it looks like they could have put panels there. So from
Unfortunately,
your
we have
installer,
tall trees to the west of our garage, and those
So
would
that would
block
why-
most of the sun.
why
We
the
would get
installer went that
relatively
direction.
little benefit from the solar panels on the west side of the garage. And then, thanks for pointing that out, but actually, the best place for these solar panels is on the south side of the roof, and that's where we have 5 of them. We have 14 of them. Most of them are on the west side of the house, the main house above. If we go down to the garage, which is one floor down, we have a lot of trees back there that would shade it, and those really wouldn't do much good for us. So
less generation.
Yeah, the current positioning of these solar panels is great, and that's why
So
they're put there.
even on the northern part, of course, you would lose some of that sun in the wintertime, I'm sure, but there's some square footage there on the north side too.
Yeah.
Looks like it might still.
Sure, you can get a hold of any sun on the north.
make
Well,
it-
yeah, it's,
the opposite.
unfortunately, we really have them in the positions now where
For the
they'll get
best
the most
generation.
sun for us.
Yeah, Chuck, do you have these panels installed already?
Yes,
So they're on your house? on
They
your
are.
roof.
And my question would be, what was the reasoning for not applying for a permit?
I asked the contractor, and the contractor said they installed some in Huber Heights without getting a permit, and so that they wouldn't need them in Vandalia. Of course, that was an unwarranted assumption. They made that mistake, and they admitted that mistake at an earlier meeting.
Are they willing to compensate if they have to come off
Yeah, they're,
because they're mistake?
yeah. But still, it would be a bit of an issue for me, because if you remove, you have these brackets holding the panels down to the roof, and if you remove those brackets, then you might be affecting the overall continuity of the roof, and it could create problems for us on down the road, and I'd really hate to do that. We love that house, and I'd really hate to do that. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment? Okay, we're going to go into the city manager's report, where we have some information items. Mr. Wendt?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to inform you that Sergeant Jennifer Childs has retired effective May 1st, and also Police Sergeant David Steinbruner has notified the city that he will be retiring. I previously reported that would be July 31st. It's actually August 14th. I'd like to congratulate them on great careers and thank them for their service, and then also to Sergeant Steinbruner to thank him for staying through Air Show. I'm pleased to report that last week I met with the Assembly for the Miami Valley Communications Council for the electric aggregation program. The Assembly voted to implement a aggregation plan that will lock in a supply rate of 0.06570 kilowatt hours for a 28-month period through December 25th. That'll likely begin to affect bills for residents in September or October. That rate is 4.77% cheaper than the rate that was just negotiated by Butler Township last week. It's about 32% cheaper than Dayton's supply rate and 39% cheaper than the 10.8 kilowatt hour AES rate that is just provided if you don't participate in any aggregation program. We've got more information on vandaliaohio.org/aggregation. We'll be working to update that page, and it is likely that residents will start to receive opt-out letters as early as Saturday, July 8th. There's no updates at this time regarding any sort of gas aggregation program. I'll follow up after Chief Althouse's presentation earlier this evening and state that there will be an open house for the Vandalia Police Division. That's the second annual open house. That'll be this Thursday, June 22nd, from 5 to 7:30 p.m. And there's a lot of great stations that are set up that you already heard about. The Star Spangled Celebration will be July 3rd. In your synopsis, there's something that states that the patriotic play area for children is open at 7 to 9 p.m. That may start at 6. I've got to confirm that. That could be an error that's included in that report. City offices will be closed on Independence Day, July 4th. And of course, we've got our summer schedule. I anticipate that we'll maintain that schedule and hold the next regular meeting at 7 p.m. on July 17th. And the study session is tentatively slated to begin at 6 p.m., but it could be a little bit earlier. That concludes my report. Thank you. I've also, if I can continue right into action items.
Yes.
Your Honor, I've got before you a list of term expirations. These are the incumbents who have indicated their desire to be reappointed to their respective boards and commissions. And I would just request, if it's the pleasure of council, for a simple motion to reappoint these individuals.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Vice Mayor Lewis and a second by Councilwoman Farsh to approve the reappointments as presented. Any comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Blakesley?
Yes.
Councilmember Follak?
Yes.
Councilmember Farsh?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Woods?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Herbst?
Yes, the motion passes 7-0. We have no old business, and that brings us to our first resolution of this evening, that being Resolution 23-R-44. Mr. McDonald?
A resolution authorizing the city manager or his designee to submit an application for community development block grant funds for a playground structure and safety surface at Robinette Park, and authorizing additional action as necessary with respect to the project.
Thank you. Mr. Wendt?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm requesting that City Council approve a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application to Montgomery County for a community development block grant for playground equipment and safety surface at Robinette Park. This was last installed in 1994, and it's part of a much larger project for that space.
All right, thank you. Have a motion?
Your Honor, I'll move to approve Resolution 23-R-44 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Follick and a second by Vice Mayor Lewis to approve Resolution 23-R-44 as presented. Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Follak?
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Woods?
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Herbst?
Yes. Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have Resolution 23-R-45.
A resolution expanding the boundaries of the community reinvestment area originally established in Resolution 80-R-17 and amended by Resolution 15-R-26.
Thank you. Mr. Went?
Thank you, Your Honor. The downtown CRA was established in 1980, expanded in 2015 to the former Morton Middle School site. This proposal is unique because of its potential to aid in development that our residents have told us that they want in our comprehensive planning and the development of a downtown and mixed-use type of area. We're allowed to undergo 2 expansions. This would be the second and final expansion that would be permitted under these rules.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Your Honor, I'll move to approve Resolution 23-R-45 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Follick and a second by Councilman Blakesley to approve Resolution 23-R-45 as presented. Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Fairst?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Woods?
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley?
Yes.
Councilmember Follak?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Herbst?
Yes, and the motion carries 7-0. Next, we have Resolution 23-R-46.
A resolution authorizing the city manager or his designee to submit an application for community development block grant funds for SIP sanitary sewer slip lining of various sanitary sewer mains in the city of Vandalia and authorizing additional action as necessary with respect to the project.
Thank you, Mr. Went.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is to authorize us to apply for a CDBG grant with Montgomery County. This would be for funds that we would use next year for that project, and I also anticipate that we may return to you as Director Cron has possibly identified another $50,000 in remaindered funds to apply to SIP lining.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve Resolution 23-R-46.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Blakesley and a second by Councilman Ayers to approve Resolution 23-R-46 as presented. Any comments?
Could you explain what authorizing additional action as necessary means?
It means if we do get the grant funds, that we can go ahead and hopefully not have to come back with the exact same type of thing, but this time authorizing it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Call the roll.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Woods?
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley?
Yes.
Councilmember Follak?
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Herbst?
Yes, and the motion carries 7-0. We have no ordinances in the first reading. We do have several in the second reading, the first one being ordinance 23-13.
An ordinance amending Chapter 1040 Water and Sewer Permits, Section 1040.02, Permit and Entry Fees of the Vandalia Codified Ordinances by adopting a new schedule of fees for water and sewer permits and providing for an annual adjustment.
Thank you. Mr. Went?
Thank you, Your Honor. With your permission, I'll just discuss 23-13 and 14.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. The current fee schedule went into effect May 2022. The proposal is a 2% adjustment to those fees. That would take effect July 1st, 2023, with an annual increase of 2% thereafter. That would take place on each January 1st. The fees are structured, if they're in cents, they're small, they're cents per square foot, it rounds to the nearest cent. If it's $1, it rounds to the nearest dollar. This is for building permit fees, zoning fees, miscellaneous fees, water, sewer, tap fees. Understanding that the one that's before you for 13 is water and sewer tap fees, and the next one is the DES fees.
All right, thank you. Since this is a ordinance in its second reading, I'll open a public hearing, so if anyone would like to make a comment on this ordinance, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and your comment. Being none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve ordinance 23-13 in its second reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Farson, a second by Councilman Blakesley to approve ordinance 23-13 in its second reading. Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Woods?
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley?
Yes.
Councilmember Follak?
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Herbst?
Yes, the motion carries 7-0. Next, we have ordinance 23-14.
An ordinance amending section 144205 and 1482.10D4 of the Vandalia Codified Ordinances by adopting a new schedule of fees for permits and inspections.
All right, and we'll let the city manager's description stand. And since this is a ordinance in its second reading, I'll open a public hearing. So if anyone would like to make a comment on this particular ordinance, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and your comment. Nobody? Okay. Being none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve ordinance 23-14 on its second reading.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Ayers and a second by Councilwoman Farsh to approve ordinance 23-14 in its second reading. Are there any comments from council? Call the roll.
Councilmember Blakesley?
Yes.
Councilmember Follak?
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Woods?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Herbst?
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0. Next, we have emergency ordinance 23-11.
An ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum principal amount of $1,399,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to provide monies for the retirement of the city's outstanding taxable land acquisition notes, Series 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Wendt.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. The land acquisition note issued for the acquisition of land for the Stone Quarry Crossings development matures on July 26, 2023. The total amount due is $1,399,000 in principal plus interest. The 2023 budget included an interest payment of $65,000. The maturity date on the new note will be July 2024. The debt is scheduled to be paid in full in 2036.
Thank you. And since this is an emergency ordinance, I'll open a public hearing. So if anyone would like to comment on this ordinance, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and your comment. Being none, I'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Your Honor, I'll move to approve ordinance 23-11 as an emergency.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Follak and a second by Councilman Blakesley to approve ordinance 23-11 as an emergency. Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Follak?
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst?
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers?
Yes.
Councilmember Woods?
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Herbst?
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0. Next, we have ordinance 23-12.
An ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $1,241,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to provide monies for the retirement of the city's outstanding various purpose notes, Series 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Mr. Wendt.
Thank you, Your Honor. The fire engine 2016 bond anticipation note issued for a fire engine matures on August 23rd, 2023. The note was combined with the fire ladder truck 2021 bond anticipation note in order to save on costs of issuance. The total remaining amount due on the note is $1,429,000 plus interest. The amount of the principal payment for the fire engine is $48,000 and $140,000 for the fire ladder truck. The 2023 budget includes a paydown amount of $48,000 on the outstanding principal due for the fire engine and $140,000 for the fire ladder truck, plus an interest payment of $55,000. The maturity on the new note will be August 2024. The debt on the fire engine is scheduled to be paid in full in 2026 and year 2031 for the fire ladder truck.
Thank you. Since this is an emergency ordinance, I'll open a public hearing. So if anyone would like to comment on ordinance 23-12, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and your comment. Being none, I'll close the public hearing. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve ordinance 2312 as an emergency.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Blakesley and a second by Councilwoman Farsh to approve ordinance 23-12 as an emergency. Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Fairst,
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers.
Yes.
Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley,
Yes.
Councilmember Follak,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis,
Yes.
Mayor Herbst.
Yes, the motion passes 7-0. And that brings us to reports from boards and commissions, where we have a variance request for 825 Old Farm Court. Mr. Wendt?
Thank you, Your Honor. The applicant, Lifetime Quality Solar, has requested a variance to allow 6 solar panels on the south-facing roof surface facing the public right-of-way on property located at 825 Old Farm Court. The purpose of this request is to allow roof-mounted solar panels to face the street. The Board of Zoning Appeals issued a split vote of 2-2 at its meeting on March 6, 2023. City Council voted to table this request till this meeting, the end.
Thought that was coming. All right, can I have a motion?
Yes, Your Honor, I move that we deny the variance request for BZA 22-10 at 825 Old Farm Court for the solar panels.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Woods and a second by Councilman Follak to deny the variance at 825 Old Farm Court. Are there any comments? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ayers,
Yes.
Councilmember Woods,
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley,
Yes.
Councilmember Follak,
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis,
Yes.
Mayor Herbst.
No, and the motion passes 6-1. We have the Bicycle Advisory Committee meeting minutes of March 13th, the Civil Service Commission meeting minutes of March 16th, the Civil Service Commission meeting minutes of May 15th, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board minutes of February 15th, Parks and Recreation Advisory minutes of May 17th, Planning Commission meeting minutes of April 25th, and the Vandalia Arts Council minutes of April 18th. Are there any comments, questions regarding those minutes? All right. And that brings us to the May 2023 bill listing in the amount of $4,198,959.22. And the May expenses over $50,000, along with the purchase card detail in the amount of $21,259.49. And that brings us to council comments. Mr. McDonald?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mr. Wendt?
No comment, Your Honor. Thank you.
Councilman Ayers?
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Farsh?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Councilman Follak?
Just real quick, wanted to congratulate Sergeant Childs on her retirement from the police division, and also to thank Claudia Terrell, who is stepping down from the Planning Commission after, I think, 2 terms. So she was on commission when I was on Planning Commission. So thank her for her volunteering to serve on that commission over the past several years. And then lastly, just to express condolences to Mr. Jack Shirley and his family on the passing of Donna. Mrs. Shirley, I mean, in our community, I don't think there's a child that probably doesn't know Mrs. Shirley. She spent 47 years, I think, running Vandalia Play School. And a lot of kids came up through the play school program. So, and then just, again, she remained active even till the very end with both the Senior Citizen Center, with the Van Tran program, the Historical Society. So condolences to Mr. Shirley and his family on her passing. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Blakesley?
I too say the condolences to the Shirley family, working with Jack over the years on council, and agree that, Ms. Shirley was an icon of the city. She will be missed. Also, best wishes to Sergeant Childs as well, and to Dave Steinbrenner. I worked with both of them. They were exemplary employees, and to the PD, great, outstanding service, public servants. Wish them best in their retirement. That's all I have.
Councilwoman Woods?
Yes, I just want to mention that House Bill 33 was passed by the House, and a few adjustments made by the Senate, but going to the governor for signature. And one of the, well, there were a lot of provisions in it, but several of them, one of them it will exempt any business from commercial activity tax as long as their gross receipts are under 3 million, possibly 6 million by the time it gets ratified. And then what that does is let a lot of the out-of-state companies pay the cat tax instead of the small businesses here that are located in the city. And then additionally, they've taken away the requirement for businesses to adjust depreciation, and they're going to accept the federal depreciation and not make us add back 5/6 of it every single year. So it's very pro-business. They want to bring businesses into Ohio, which hopefully that trickles down and brings businesses into Vandalia. But I think that's a good move on the part of them. I guess they must have really I know they've been flush with money for a while, and they're doing the right thing and taking the burden away from people who don't need to pay that. So just wanted to mention that.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Lewis.
No, thank you.
All right, and I have no comments, so we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.